Today we're going to talk about the important question of what is organizational culture and why is it so important? In my years as an adult, I have worked for an investment bank on Wall Street. I've worked for a really big law firm nationally in San Francisco. I worked for a mid-sized litigation boutique in Miami. I worked as a government attorney. I had my own law practice. And then, of course, I was in a culture of the prison system. And in each of these different environments, I experienced different organizational cultures, of course. So in one respect, I was involved with a corporation where hierarchy mattered. There were structured roles, there was a lot of competition, and that was what people thrived on. In another culture, it was very much financially based. So the culture was all around results, and that was what the focus was. There was specific examples, specific things that had to be achieved. Of course, when I was in the prison system, it was all based on power. Of course, necessarily so is how it's created, but that also had its own culture. What I learned is that organizational cultures exist within the attitude, shared beliefs, experiences, stories that we permeate about what's important. And ethics and integrity has to be infused into our corporate cultures. It's the only way our corporate cultures are going to survive and thrive. Once we begin to recognize that corporate culture can be an asset, and it's really like an ignition switch, that if created and if permeated throughout the organization in a way that fosters support and integrity, can really act as a turbo boost, because it can be an effective driver of performance for the employees. It can be an effective way to attract top lateral hires and hires into, and leadership and management board members into the corporation if the corporate culture represents something that somebody is attracted to. And that really will evolve over time, because of course human beings are evolving and the factors and influences in our lives affect every one of the corporate cultures. And the reality is the corporate cultures in one industry might be different from a corporate culture in a different industry. So every culture has to be created uniquely by the leadership and then permeated and modeled and in a vulnerable way across the organization. So let's go over what I believe are the 7 principles of an effective organizational culture. The first is, how does the corporation treat its employees, its customers, and the larger community as a whole? If the culture is insisting on fairness, on integrity, on respect for individuality, on tolerance, then the idea, the notion that the employees and the customers and the community have about the company, about the corporation and its corporate culture will be one that's quite effective. The second is, what are the integrity of the functions and the operations? Does the corporation value ethics and morality? Where does that fall on the spectrum in terms of priority? If the larger community, the corporation's employees, and the corporation's target client, audience, customers, see that the corporation values integrity and values ethics, then that corporate culture is going to be something that's admired, and it's going to attract and be like a magnet for others to come into that corporate culture. The third is freedom in decision making and personal expression. So are team members encouraged to express their opinions? Do they have the business discipline for making the right decisions and to do the right thing? Oftentimes there's not a safe space that's created to do this, and a corporate culture must create that freedom so that people don't have the fear that's associated with making those hard decisions, with doing the right thing, because they feel loss aversion or they're scared of speaking up. Fourth is commitment to innovation. Is there an encouragement of experimentation, of risk-taking? The risk-taking that has to happen is the way you're going to overcome any limitations that an employee might feel. So in order to promote the corporate culture of experimentation, of innovation, of risk-taking, you have to take into account the risk factors and make sure that things are being done right. But then start encouraging that. Fifth, flow of power and information. Is there an opportunity to speak openly? Is there a safe space that's created to have courageous conversations with candor? That open line of communication is key. What is the distribution of power? Is there a way for somebody to speak about their superior, if need be, to a neutral party, to an ombudsman. Is there a hotline? Is there a culture that promotes vulnerability? And that's really hard for employees. It's really hard to talk about something that isn't so easy to talk about. And oftentimes employees just kind of keep it in. So maybe there's a concern, maybe there's a question, maybe there's sort of this gut feeling that they feel like they need to talk about, but they don't feel secure in talking about it because they feel risk of retaliation, risk of penalty. So the corporate culture has to promote those safe spaces. There has to be an ongoing, ever-changing, ever-evolving conversation that's supported, that's encouraged, and really has to happen, on a regular basis. The structure and hierarchy of the corporation is also really important. Are there some rigid rules and hierarchy that have to be mandated and have to be followed? Or is there a little bit of flow so that if an individual person doesn't feel necessarily free or capable of talking to their, let's say, immediate supervisor, is there the freedom for him or her to go and speak to somebody else to deal with some specific issues? The corporate culture should encourage some level of flexibility to do this. The last is the incentive structure. So is the incentive structure bonuses, commissions, salary, and other ways of rewarding good behavior? Is it incentivized? Are people encouraged to do the right thing? And are they being incentivized for it? Are they being rewarded for it? Is there a bonus structure in place to encourage, to help the company grow? Because the more a team feels encouraged and empowered to do the right thing, the company will benefit. There isn't a direct communicative line between doing the right thing, having a successful ethical corporate culture infused with integrity, and the bottom line of a corporation, because not only will the community respect and admire and want to work with that corporation, you have lateral hires that will want to come in, you have new hires that will want to come in because the corporation is attractive to work for, and then of course you have your customers. And customers, clients will want to work with you because you've established a corporate culture that is respected, that is followed, that is admired, that represents integrity. And that is kind of the goal. And as long as you're constantly evolving and assessing what your culture is and reaching and aspiring to do better, the corporate culture will reflect that. I hope this has been helpful. Please follow, tag, share what I have to say. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. Until next time, thanks.